Blog Talk Radio.
Are you ready for the summer? Are you ready for the sunshine? Are you ready for the fresh and beans, the apple trees, and a whole lot of food? Are you ready for the summer? Are you ready for the hot nights? Are you ready for the fireflies, the sunshine, and a whole lot of food? No more pencils, no more brush, no more teachers shutting up, no more math and history. Summertime and free. Are you ready for the summer? Are you ready for the good times? Are you ready for the summertime in the summer?
You know, I can't help but think that I might have finally identified what it is specifically about that song that kind of galls on me just a little bit. When I was a young lad, summer was something to look forward to. As the song suggests, the lack of school, I actually liked school, but you didn't have to wake up early. There were no obligations on your time. It was a brief period, 3 to 4 months of mild chaos and anarchy, the ability to do whatever you want, to stay up as late as you want, to sleep in as much as you want, and with no possible repercussions as long as you stayed within the bounds of the law and the rules of your house. Now that I'm older, I just realize summer it exists to kind of make you miserable. It makes you hot. The kids are always there now because you can't get rid of them. Oh, no. They're just there now. The heat goes up. The bills go up because Lord knows you can't live inside of a house that's over 100 degrees, so you got to cool it somehow, some way. And it's just a hot, stuffy, overly bright mess. And since that our intro song celebrates that hot, bright, long day, short night, crowded, loud, overstuffed mess, I get a little bit irksome regarding that song. Hi, everybody. On that pleasant note, this is the Radulich and Broadcasting Network Movie Review Podcast. I am Robert Winfree. And tonight we are reviewing Disney Pixar's Finding Dory, the sequel to Pixar's first major smash, runaway, rob the bank and get out of town success that was Finding Nemo. Here with me, as usual, is the bright sunshine-loving, happy-go-lucky, he can find the positive in darn near anything. He brings the parade, I bring the rain. Mark Radulich. How you doing this evening, Mark?
I didn't even understand that first thing that you just started saying things like everything is hot and sticky, and I tuned out because I love you, Robert Winfree. It's like my wife, my kid, you. Actually, that's not true. It's my kid, my wife, you.
She's in the background there, isn't she? You're trying to set up another divorce cast.
Sitting right on the couch.
Good thing I'm not listening to you.
Exactly. But I don't want to imagine you hot and sticky. Yuck. That seems yucky to me.
It's an atmospheric condition. I live in a desert, for crying out loud.
It's a Sam Kinison bit. You live in a desert! Move where the food is! You ever hear him do that?
No, can't say that I have.
Oh, you should stop this podcast right now and go listen to, I'm always suggesting we do something other than a podcast. You should just stop this podcast right now and go look on YouTube for Sam Kinison talking about, the kids in Africa. And it's like, I have the solution for starvation in Africa. And this was during like the height of the Sally Struthers thing, where she would come on TV and she would beg for money. It's like, I have an idea. Don't stop sending them money. Don't send them anything except for luggage. Send them bags. Send them suitcases. And I'll go down there and explain it to them. But you live in a desert! Move where the food is! You see, this is sand. Nothing grows here. Pretty funny.
Well, it's also a gross exaggeration of the political and economic strife facing those people. I mean, that's...
Well,
I mean,
think
sure, you can laugh at it if you're, a tad heartless.
so. The Free State of Jones is currently at 0% on Rotten Tomatoes.
That's a tad surprising. How many reviews are there?
However, for Independence Day, 57%. And we'll be talking about that next week.
Yeah, we will.
My wife has just complained that we have talked about everything but Dory, so maybe we should get to it.
Well, considering she comprises at least 50% of the listening audience, I suppose we should.
That's not true. We have decent numbers on my network.
I know. I couldn't help it. Had to make the joke. Because we're a small podcast, ladies and gentlemen, and I love each and every one of you.
Okay. There are 6 reviews for the Free State of Jones, all of them rotten.
I imagine that will change as it gets more reviews, but that's a tad troubling. It looks like a darn good movie is what disturbs me about it, and if those aren't getting if the critics aren't liking it when it's supposed to be a critical darling, well, does not bode well. Let's go ahead and phrase it like that. All right. Moving on to Finding Dory, the smash hit. The smash hit, I say.
Yeah, it
the
was.
Weekend of the month.
Certified fresh, baby. Woo!
Of the last. We finally get to talk about a movie that Mark doesn't have to necessarily defend left, right, and center.
No, I'm here to tell you Finding Dory stinks. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not one of those guys.
You don't have it in you, Mark. You just don't. There's too much sunshine in your soul.
I will say this. There are 11 rotten reviews for Finding Dory, but we're not there yet. So let's talk about the sequel.
All right. Yes, let's. I don't know how much we want to get into the production of this movie. I'm glad this movie came out when it did. I'm glad that it was not rushed. You see, Finding Nemo, which I have to bring up here very briefly, simply for context in a couple of ways. In 2003, Finding Nemo made $936 million. 13 years ago, this thing almost made $1 billion. It was one of the highest grossing films of the year. It was the second highest grossing film of 2003. The highest grossing animated film at the time. I mean, this thing was a smash success. Everybody knew Finding Nemo. Everybody. So much so that a bunch of people released their pet clownfish into non-native locales, resulting in them becoming a pretty big problem as an invasive species. You morons.
Be nice.
No. Invasive species are a huge problem. You upset ecosystems. You do nothing but cause problems when you do this.
Their hearts were in the right place.
I do not care where their hearts were. I care about the consequences of their actions.
Consequences.
Yes, I knew you would say that. Where do you work again?
Nowhere. I live off. I live off government subsidies.
Mark is currently subcontracted out to a prison. Jail.
Wrong.
Really?
A jail is not a prison, sir.
Okay, what is it?
A jail is a jail. Prisons are for the sentenced. Jails are for the non-sentenced, awaiting sentenced, or for those who are seeking to petition the court to reduce their sentence. So there.
Yeah, I said jail. I corrected myself after misspeaking.
Alrighty then. You may continue.
All right. Anyway, the reason I'm glad the movie, to get back to my point, that thing could have been rushed. You could have rushed a sequel to that. Pixar was still kind of finding its footing. I mean, it was making quality movies, but this was their first, again, gigantic financial success. The others had made money. Toy Story made money. Bugs Life made money. Finding Nemo, again, robbed a bank. I mean, this was just massive, massive success. And if the same movie came out last year, we'd already have a sequel in production. Thankfully, it wasn't rushed. They waited until the people involved actually kind of found a story that they wanted to tell. This is not a studio movie. This is a movie made by the same people who have the same world in mind, who have a degree of artistic integrity. And the film is so much better because it was not rushed and manhandled by a studio. So I need to say that up front, first and foremost.
Yay,
right.
They didn't destroy their own movie.
Well, I mean, it is Pixar, you know. These guys are batting 999.
This is true.
The one blemish is Cars 2.
The one blemish to you, I keep saying, you know.
The one blemish to anyone with a fully developed functional brain.
Children love it, it counts.
Did you not understand the qualifications I put on there? Children do not have fully developed functional brains. They don't count.
Sure they do.
No,
they buy tickets same as anybody. They buy tickets same as anybody else.
No, their parents buy tickets.
They do by extension.
They buy them for their children, but if the children did not have access to parents, they wouldn't do it. No one cares about orphaned kids for that same reason.
Okay.
No one's shelling out cash on their behalf.
But you know it got an even worse score, I believe, on Rotten Tomatoes than Cars 2? The Good Dinosaur. I would say that actually is critically and financially the worst of the Pixar films.
Financially, absolutely. I would argue to the death that The Good Dinosaur is a better film than Cars 2.
So sure, we gave it praise, but the kids didn't like it as much.
It wasn't really a kid's movie.
We're losing the point. Let's get back to Finding Dory.
All right. Anyway, Pixar continues their stellar batting average here. Actually, you know, this movie is part of the reason The Good Dinosaur was as underdeveloped as it was, because they swapped release dates for Finding Dory and The Good Dinosaur in order to give Dory more time in production, which was the correct decision, all things considered.
I guess they figured there was no saving The Good Dinosaur, so fuck it, just get it out there.
Yeah, the production problems for that movie are relatively well documented.
Yep, we talked about them on this show.
We did. All right. Finding Dory as a plot first introduces us to Dory as a small, adorable child. She has... we learn that she has had these her short-term memory issues the duration of her life. This is not something that was caused by physical trauma or too much alcohol or marijuana use. She was born this way. And she, being a small child, lost her parents. That how is not revealed at the time. It's revealed a little bit later. But she winds up losing her parents, wandering the ocean for a couple of years, looking for people to help her, but she has memory problems and people don't like Dory very much. She's off-putting. Until she runs, literally, into Marlin, Nemo's dad. They go off on their grand adventure and become good friends. The film picks up proper a year or so after their meeting, so Nemo is back with his dad. They're living happily on the Great Barrier Reef. And the first convenient jogging of Dory's memory. This is my only gripe with this movie. My singular gripe. Dory's memory fading in and out serves the plot in an extraordinarily convenient fashion.
Yeah, I'll say this with Dory's memory. It obeys no laws.
It is amnesia ex machina. I mean, that's kind of how we're going with this.
It goes away and comes back, and what she did. I mean, theoretically, she shouldn't be able to remember Marlin or Nemo either. But you know, it sort of just comes and goes when it wants to, and
that's not how short-term memory loss works.
I'm sorry, we have somebody who didn't want to participate in the podcast participating in the podcast. I'm sorry. Here comes the expert. Here comes.
I do have a master's degree in special education.
Here comes the wah 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 wah.
No, but I mean, like,
Hang on, let me at least introduce you since you just had to just yell into the podcast from out of nowhere. Ladies and gentlemen, special ed teacher, my wife, Melissa Radulich. Go ahead.
Well, but that's not. Long-term memory and short-term memory are two very different things. So short-term memory are those immediate things that you have to recall quickly. With enough repetition and exposure, it gets transferred into long-term memory. That is why she can remember Marlin and her parents eventually. The other side of it is those memories get triggered because something similar happened. So her long-term memory gets triggered.
So from your vast experience with people with short-term memory loss,
not memory loss, short-term memory disorders.
Short-term memory disorders. Would you say that Dory's short-term memory loss followed as it should?
It's a major exaggeration.
Well, isn't that what I just said?
No.
I said it doesn't. I said it obeys no laws.
Yeah, but that's not what you. That's different than a major exaggeration.
Okay. Are you done?
Yeah.
Interrupting my podcast?
I'm gonna go back to reading my Disney Cruise message.
For those interested in a slightly more accurate display of antegrated short-term memory loss or amnesia, I have to recommend Christopher Nolan's film Memento.
Yeah, that's a good example.
However, memory disorders are different from full-blown amnesia. The human brain is vast and complex, and apparently so is the fish brain. I mean, that's not true in any way, shape, form, or fashion. However, for the purposes of this discussion. Anyway, Dory's memory is triggered, and she suddenly remembers that she has parents, that they live in California, and she must find them. She is compelled, you understand. I say that quasi-facetiously, but it is a completely reasonable response. So she lassos Marlin and Nemo into this adventure. They skip over what I think, they cross the entire Pacific Ocean, going from Australia to San Diego?
Yes.
Yeah, San Diego. The entire Pacific Ocean they cross on the backs of sea turtles, including Crush from the first film. Skipped right over. Biggest expanse of space on contiguous expanse of space on the planet, and we get 2 minutes of Marlin being sick. Anyway, once there, they become separated relatively quickly. Dory is captured by some of the nice volunteers at the Marine Life Institute, which is where she has memories of her parents. She is placed into quarantine, which is what you do with fish that you capture and happen to be in distress. Marlin and Nemo now begin frantically trying to get into the Institute to locate her. She starts trying to figure out if her family's actually in the aquarium or outside. She meets the star of this movie. It is not Ellen DeGeneres. It is Ed O'Neill as the crotchety octopus.
You goddamn right. Ed O'Neill makes this movie.
Yeah, Ed O'Neill is just the best. He is the best part of this entire movie. He gets the best line, which I will talk about later. Anyway, Ed O'Neill is about to be released back into the ocean, but he's an octopus with only 7 tentacles, so Dory nicknames him a septopus. Get it? Because sept is the prefix for 7. Latin, octo for 8. But he doesn't want to go back into the ocean. He was traumatized by something. He doesn't want to be where kids can poke at him. He wants to get on this truck and join the other animals that are being transferred to the Marine Life Institute in Cleveland, Ohio. Why Cleveland, Ohio has a Marine Life Institute is slightly beyond me, but apparently they do. He wishes to go there and live out the remainder of his days in seclusion, peace, isolation, and just general happiness. I sympathize. So he concocts a deal with Dory whereby he will help her locate her parents. In return, he gets her tag that marks her as destined for Cleveland, which is a fate worse than death in many ways, however. If you're Hank, it's great, I guess. The places that would rather...
In this movie, there's nothing wrong with going to Cleveland. Get your own opinions out of this, sir.
So it was just because it's Cleveland.
Cleveland rocks.
No. Do not try to quote Drew Carey at me. Anyway,
My wife and I just looked at it.
I'm so very glad you maintain that level of marital harmony.
She wants to know if you knew that Cleveland Rocks was a song.
Yes, it's the intro. I know Drew Carey uses the intro to his sitcom.
Okay.
I
She's
don't know
from
if
Cleveland, so you're
I'm
insulted.
not from there. I lived there.
Once upon a
I
time,
am
she lived
so
in
sorry.
Cleveland, so ultimately it's the greatest city on earth. That's how this works, okay? Just move on.
All right. Hijinks ensue. Marlin and Nemo meet Stringer Bell and McNulty in the form of sea lions hanging out on a rock, who also get some good laughs in their attempts to get...
We were saying Idris Elba is hysterical. I didn't realize the other one was McNulty. And you posted something about The Wire early. You posted something about The Wire earlier, and I was like, what the hell is he talking about? But I remember even my wife was just like, was that Idris Elba as one of the sea lions? I'm like, yes, and we both had a good laugh at that.
Yeah, no, that's actually Bell and McNulty reunited as fat sea lions hanging out on a rock.
Huh. Well, my goodness, that's his best. Not Idris Elba, but McNulty. That's McNulty's best work since The Wire.
He did a pretty good job as that rapist in that one movie.
Then, of course, there was his role in Money Monster.
He was in that? I have blocked so much of that from my mind that...
So what happens next, Mr. Winfree?
Well, Marlin and Nemo engage in, again, hijinks, eventually to get into the Marine Life Institute, which they do. In the Institute, Dory and Hank have a series of misadventures. Hank is apparently amphibious because he breathes out of water just fine. I don't know if there's a thing with octopi where they can just survive without breathing water for extended periods of time, but this guy is like fully evolved to breathe both water and oxygen. He is the pinnacle of the cephalopods. And he and Dory engage in hijinks. Dory can never quite remember where she's going, so there's jokes about that. He has some camouflage ability because he's a red octopus, and they can actually change color a little bit. I don't think it's to the degree that was displayed here, but, we live in a society where cartoon chameleons freak out when they see plaid, so we're just going to kind of roll with it. Again, hijinks. She believes she finds her old house, but her parents have long since been removed because this is fish. She thinks they're dead because, again, the lifespan of the average blue tang is, I'm guessing, not great. She is briefly reunited with Nemo and Marlin on the truck. That goes badly because she gets knocked out while the octopus Hank tries to both take her tag and, get them out of there in time to avoid being shipped off to Cleveland because they don't want to go. He does. They don't. She winds up in the, back in the wild and miraculously discovers her parents are alive. They escaped from the aquarium, not once they realized that's where she went, what happened to her as a baby, and they've spent the last several years laying out seashells for her to follow because as a kid she liked following shells around. It was one of the ways that she could avoid getting lost. We get the touching reunion. We get the big rescue scene where she gets again, the line of this entire movie goes to Ed O'Neill as they're stealing that truck, and he informs the humans to suck it bipeds. Anyway, they steal back the truck. They drive it off the cliff, back into the ocean. They are all reunited. They all go back to live in the Great Barrier Reef. Never mind the damage done to the local ecosystem, again, by all of these non-native species that have just been released into that particular part of the world. But I think about these things entirely too much.
Yeah, you do.
Again, the movie ends with Marlon, who's harbored a little bit of maybe resentment, maybe just kind of frustration with Dory because, well, it's frustrating dealing with Ellen DeGeneres. And he comes to just come to accept Dory. She's reunited with her parents. Again, Hank takes over as a substitute teacher at the local fish school, and we all live happily ever after. All right.
Let me first say
before...
that I had... Go ahead.
Go ahead. I was going to say, before you and I really get into this, we have a caller. Do you want to go ahead and take that?
Oh. Yeah. Oh, my God.
All right.
Hang on. Area code 516, Strong Island, represent.
Long Island, Mineola, bro.
Nice. Not too far from where I used to live.
Oh, for real? I haven't actually seen the movie, so I was more on Finding Nemo, and I like the movie talk, so I'm just listening for this portion.
Okay, I'll go ahead and put you back on mute, okay?
Yeah, but if you guys break into any other movies, I'm here.
We'll bring you back, okay. My first big belly laugh of this movie, I mean, I enjoyed the whole thing. It was a little distracting because we had my kids there. I can't really do the bit where I ask, where I say, well, this is what my daughter thought, because I honestly forgot to ask her. She liked the movie. She was into it. But we had my son with us, and my wife can attest to this, that both of us were not entirely able to watch the movie because we were too busy trying to get him to sit in this goddamn seat. My son
so that was you behind me.
My son, unfortunately, has about a 15-minute attention span, and it was used up in the trailers. And so by the time we got to the movie, he said, "I don't care anymore," and would proceed to just kind of. He was quiet, but he would get up and he would walk around. And at one point, he fell down the stairs. And then he resorted to standing in his seat and doing ha ha ha. As loud as he possibly could, and me going, "For the love of God, stop talking." So yeah, a little tough there. I think I can say this: Lily, however, liked the whale shark character, Destiny. Yeah, I think that was her big takeaway from the movie, was she liked the character Destiny. However, her dear old dad, my favorite part of the movie, and where I got the biggest belly laugh. Where tears streaming out of my eyes, I was laughing so hard, was I knew they were going to drive the truck off the cliff. I saw that coming a mile away. There was no other way for them to end this movie. But I was not expecting, and maybe you can remember with the original bit they're pulling this from is reference. But as soon as they broke into What a Wonderful World, I couldn't contain myself. I was laughing pretty hard. And I knew that's a reference to something else. And it's been referenced a few times, but I don't remember where the original, I guess, something going off a cliff and there being them playing What a Wonderful World. Do you have any clue?
Not a clue, but I'll take your word for it that it's from something else original. I honestly, I don't know what that stems from originally. I will have to look that up now, see if I can find it.
In any case, I thought that was pretty. I did not expect What a Wonderful World, And so, and so I had a good laugh at that. But overall, I really liked the movie. I think I preferred it to Finding Nemo. I thought Ellen doesn't really have a character arc as such. And this is something I want to get into really quickly. If my wife decides to pipe in again, she's certainly able to. But one of the conversation starters that came out of this movie was that this wasn't so much about a character sort of getting from A to Z, as you would in a typical movie, so much as it was about how to deal with a child with a developmental disability. And therein lies her arc. She goes from, I don't even know if it's an arc as such, but it's just an hour and a half of her struggling with this disability and trying to get around it. And, she has a goal to get to, but it's obstructed by the fact that she can't remember enough details to, move forward in any kind of linear fashion. And so all these other detours happen. But the flashbacks were the really interesting part to my wife and I of the parents realizing they have a child with a disability, and being able to engage that child with a disability, and then coming up with what's the word that you get, accommodations so that child can then participate in regular society. And all of that stuff was there. And one of the things we said was, if any teachers or people who deal with children want to show a movie about how you too can succeed even if you've got some sort of a disability, this is a great one to show them, because that's the movie in a nutshell. But regardless of Ellen and that character and dealing with the short-term memory loss and all of that, I thought Albert Brooks's arc was good too. He had an arc himself, where he's still struggling with the sea. The sea is constantly trying to kill him, and being able to sort of let go and have trust and enjoy life. Because I don't know if he necessarily gets there in Finding Nemo. In Finding Nemo, it was about him trying to find his son. He doesn't. I don't know if he necessarily has a personal arc other than being brave enough to go after his son with all of these dangers.
There's a bit of an arc. He has an arc in Finding Nemo wherein he learns that you can't be a helicopter parent. Is one of his kind of big thing there is letting go of elements of that control and that fear and paranoia.
Right. I thought this was a continuation on that then, where it deals a little bit more into it, and he comes across as more evolved by the end of this movie. In a lot of ways at the behest of his son, who's like, Jesus, why won't you let go a little bit more? Why won't you trust? So I think between the Albert Brooks character, Marlon, and Ellen, I think you have two very strong central characters that are engaging and really take you through this movie. Now they're supported by some of the funniest characters I've seen in an animated movie in a long time, even in a regular comedy. As we talked about, Idris Elba as the sea lion is hysterical. Ed O'Neill is a tour de force as the octopus. The scenes with the flashback scenes with the parents are very engaging, and of course, as everyone says, the star of this movie is Baby Dory. So,
well, she's clearly the cutest.
Yeah, by far. And that's really it. I mean, I don't think I had any problems with the movie. I think structurally it was all very sound. I was engaged throughout the entire hour and some odd, minutes of the movie. And it's a gorgeous looking movie. I mean, the one thing we said about The Good Dinosaur was the best thing about it was how it looks. And I think Finding Dory is still even more an improvement on the photorealistic animation that Pixar uses. You might as well have been right in the water with them. The only things that ever looked weird, and I had the same problem with Inside Out, is the human characters always look way too cartoony. Like, I could be convinced by looking at The Good Dinosaur or Finding Dory that these are real animals. until you see the humans and you're like, oh, no, this is an animated film. Human beings don't look like that. Everything is always too rounded with the humans. So that's not even a complaint, just an observation. But like I said, overall, there was nothing really boring about it. I think it flowed from one scene to the next, and all the character acting and voice work was spot on.
Yeah, my biggest gripe is Dory's amnesia occurring in extremely convenient ways for the plot to continue unfolding.
Shut up! You're gonna upset my wife again. Oh,
well,
Jesus, Melissa.
I don't care. I don't live with her.
That's okay. Apparently, she wasn't listening.
I understand that memory and the mind, and it's a very mercurial thing. It's not set in stone. I understand. I'm prepared to have leeway granted. I just really, again, it unfolded a little too convenient to the overall structure of the film. I would have preferred, like, she'd be on her own at one point and just remember everything but have no ability to act on it.
Well, I'll tell you, a very intense part of the movie for me was when she finally ends up back in the ocean and she's alone again. And you don't know, and I honestly didn't know. I had forgotten about the shell thing or what the relevance of the shells would be. So it didn't occur to me at the time, and maybe you picked it up faster than I did, but that she would see shells and start to follow the shells, and those shells would lead back to her parents. Because I had a very much an aha moment when it started to all connect. But I'll tell you, those few fleeting moments when she is alone and she doesn't see shells, she doesn't know what to do, and she doesn't remember what she's doing, I thought it was pretty scary. It's to have that sort of fear of I don't know what to do next and I don't have anyone to help me. I think that's a very tangible, realistic fear. And I felt for the character. And I thought the animators did a very good job of conveying that on the character.
Yeah, I agree. I wasn't worried for the character because I know entirely too much, and I know that nothing bad is going to happen. In that sense, this is a kids' movie.
Oh, of course, but
however, I had no idea how they were going to fix the dilemma they had placed. That frequently with kids' movies, the setup, the peril, and then the solution to the peril are evident early if you think about it as a film. And I can never stop thinking about these movies by and large.
I was going to say, you wanted to make your point, so I shut up, but you don't ever just go to sit in the moment of the movie and let the movie sort of unfold without thinking too much on it. You don't allow yourself to just sort of stop thinking.
No, my brain does not turn off.
Okay, mine does.
I know.
And honestly, that's become a learned technique. Because I used to think through the movie and try to guess what was going to happen next, and I've just come to a point in my life where I don't want to do that anymore, and I have the ability, so I can do it. Obviously, if you can't, you can't. But I can very easily just turn everything. You know what it is? I walk through a mod, and there's guys screaming, "I'm going to kill you," and fat ass, why don't you lose some weight? And hey, doc, come here, I need meds. And there's just people. I'm used to people screaming at me as I walk through a building, and I have learned to be able to disconnect from all of it. It's how I'm able to do my job. My ability to selectively ignore my environment and focus on something directly in front of me. So I think it's become a learned technique, and I can apply it when I'm in the movies. Does that make sense?
Okay. No, I especially can't do it if I know I have to review it. Because if I don't pay attention to the film, I will come out with like 3 words, and that's a terrible review.
Well, then you'd be like the paid reviewers. Ha ha.
First of all, we should acknowledge you cherry-picked the ones that not only are going to annoy me, but they are also, like, it's clear that whoever selects the blurbs that go under they go next to their bylines to get you to click and read the entire review are deliberately trying to be provocative.
All right, so do we have anything bad to say about the movie? I mean, let's go down the line here. Ellen DeGeneres as Dory. I know you're not a huge fan of her. I am. I enjoy her stand-up. I don't care about some of the personal stuff that she's gone through. I mean, unless she's Bill Cosby at this point, who gives a shit? But I thought she, you had said that in Finding Nemo, she comes across, to the Marlin character as grating, and even in the beginning of this one, she's off-putting was the phrase you used. In any case, I thought Ellen DeGeneres did not overplay the character. I thought she handled the character well. I thought the character was still an interesting one and a charming one, and one that we root for. What were your thoughts on her performance?
Well, when I say I mean the character is off-putting. Dealing with people who have issues like that is weird if you're not used to it. And, clearly most of the people in her sphere at the beginning of this movie are a little more used to her and her, quirks and her issues. But as a general rule, to the average person, you meet someone with that kind of memory issue, it's a little off-putting, and you just kind of look for the nearest exit as quickly as you possibly can, provided there's no immediate danger to any party. I intended that as a compliment for the writing and the way it was portrayed. I have no issue with Ellen DeGeneres' portrayal. I don't care for Ellen's stand-up or, anything like that, but in this instance, as this character, I have nothing negative to say.
Albert Brooks and his reprisal as Marlin. Let me say this for that character. They don't go nearly as far enough to get to the point where I start to get annoyed, but I can see where Nemo was coming from when he got fed up with his father. He is a bit of ant at a picnic for a lot of the movie, and I'm glad they recognized that and they gave him an arc where he gets over it and is able to evolve. Because boy, was he getting annoying.
I would have so much preferred that there'd be a scene where his stop, actually think things through would have worked out, because as it stands, it comes across a bit as, caution and forethought and planning are useless attributes, and boy, we should all just charge straight forward into whatever and damn the torpedoes full speed ahead.
My D&D nickname was Bait McTrapspringer for just that reason.
Why does that not surprise me in the least?
Head, tuck chin, tilt head, run forward. That was my motto. Yeah.
Your DM must have been so happy with you so frequently.
Oh yeah. The very first time I played D&D, I annoyed the shit out of one of the guys I was playing with, because I'm pretty sure I caused him to lose most of his armor and his weapons with my antics. And then because I didn't understand how the game, worked, I said, "Why don't we just reset and start all over again?"
And they all looked at you. I imagine now the head slowly turning with these looks of absolute horror around the table.
Yeah. I would get it a little after some time, but those first couple of times playing D&D, I annoyed quite a few people. All right, so Ed O'Neill, we talked about as sort of the star of this thing.
The best.
Ed O'Neill is great. I enjoyed him on Modern Family. I loved him on Married with Children. He plays a great cranky old man.
I'm going to get suck-it bipeds tattooed on me somewhere.
Right across your forehead?
No, that's stupid.
Across your neck? Be hardcore?
No.
But yeah, he and really that whole sequence when he's driving the truck, I was wildly amused by. But yeah, he is the glue that holds this movie together. Without him, you don't have a movie, really. it's just the characters are stuck in too many ways. And that was one of the things I was talking to Melissa about this. One of the things that I noticed is Pixar does a really, really good job with fish and toys and characters where they can't. The world is too big. They are little itty bitty things, and the world is too big, and their destination is too great, and yet they are able to overcome and bridge those distances. When how do two clownfish get from the sea into this institute? They have a bird and a bucket, and they create these obstacles that are insane. But these are also cognizant talking fish here, so who cares? But Pixar knows about where the lines are, where we're asking you to suspend a bit of disbelief in order to enter this world, but they never go so far out of it that you're taken out of the movie. And even the thought of a tangfish and an octopus driving a truck, which sounds ridiculously unbelievable. Well, first you must accept that these things are can talk and can form a plan, and then after that, why can't he drive the truck? It's not like he drove it well. It wasn't like they went from driving the truck to and he wins a NASCAR race or anything. He did exactly what he should have done, which is crash the thing left and right, and finally drove it into the sea. But yeah, he is definitely holding the movie in many ways on his broad shoulders, and was a joy to watch. And he's really and I wanted to make sure we talked about that. I would give me your thoughts there on Mr. Ed O'Neill.
Best part of the movie, unequivocally. He got the best laughs, at least out of my showing generally. I think he has one of the best animation profiles. Now the character does. The way he moves, the way he splats onto the windshield to get the humans to freak out and stop the truck.
Mm-hmm.
No, he is the best thing about this movie.
We talked before about, this is a great movie that deals with developmental disability. And I never really got your opinion on that because I think we started talking about something else. But what is your opinion on that?
I generally agree with your assessment. You deal with people more than I do. I will bow to your superior experience level in this particular instance and agree with you. All
right. I really don't have a whole lot else. That's the problem when we find movies that are really good. We don't have a tremendous amount to say about them. So I'm going to sort of defer to you here and say, do you have any burning desires? If not, let's talk about the money.
Again, the reuniting McNulty and Stringer Bell on a rock where they dream about laying down on the rock.
They keep yelling, one got to get off.
Those two, I got a kick out of those two because, then, Gerald shows up and wants to be on the rock with them, and nope, hey. And then, oh, wait, we need his bucket. Jerry, come on, give us your pail. We'll let you sit on the rock. Yeah, come on. There you go. That's a nice rock, isn't it? Time's up. Off.
They were pleasantly mean to him.
Well, I've seen enough documentaries and stuff on sea lions that you get two on a rock, or two or three, and they're just kind of lounging and they're happy, and then for some reason they just decide, no, this is enough for this rock, and you are not getting on. I got a couple of laughs.
I like how Pixar made it a point to make sure they got correct animal behavior in their animated feature where they talk.
Yeah, I appreciate that. The details that they add to stuff like the otters. They were just there to create a traffic jam, but let's be fair. If we saw a bunch of otters engaged in a cuddle party on the side of the road, you're probably stopping. That's the society we live in.
It was in many ways a remark about society. Just the term cuddle party in and of itself, which I found highly amusing.
Even though otters are relatively vicious carnivores.
You mean like Emmett Otterton?
I don't understand your reference.
Emmett Otterton. From Zootopia.
He of the jug band fame?
No, Zootopia. The vicious carnivore.
Yeah, no, yes, guys, otters may be cute and they may have family units and we might, and all of that is true. They are carnivores. They eat other living things. They eat fish. They eat scallops. They eat whatever they can get their little paws around and break open, they will devour its flesh.
Yeah, as we saw in Zootopia.
And I just need that. I just need to say, if you throw a blue tang at an otter, it's going to eat it.
All right,
anyway, with that bit of reality
else?
shattering your preconceived notions.
Okay. Anything else?
Oh, do I have anything else? No, I don't think I do. Other than, I will say this very briefly. I don't think there's room for a third movie, and I really hope that since we're about to talk about the money, we don't get something stupid shoehorned in just because of money.
Well, I don't know. Before we jump into this, can we talk about that for a second? Because I didn't think there was anywhere to go after Toy Story 3. It ended perfectly. There was no more, there was nothing left to tell. Andy went off to college, gave his toys to Bonnie. They've since done little shorts with Bonnie and the toys, but whatever, I can live with that. But as far as a big feature, we're still getting Toy Story 4.
I know. I cannot tell you how irrationally angry I got over that.
We're getting Cars 3. We're getting Toy Story 4.
I don't care about Cars. I didn't care for the first one. The second one is a soulless cash grab designed to exploit the modicum of fame Larry the Cable Guy had at that point in time. And is, quite frankly, borderline intellectually revolting.
So, we'll see. I mean, that's the problem. This thing has already broken records. Well, all right, hang on.
Here comes the money.
Here we go. Money talk.
Here comes the money. Money, money,
Dollar, dollar.
Hit it right that time. All right. On a production budget of about $200 million, according to Wikipedia, this movie has already made $205.3 million. It did $154 million domestic and $50 million foreign, which brings us worldwide, as I said, to 205. It had an animated box office record of $136 million opening. Its 4-day total compared to Shrek the Third, which was originally had the title, it was 154 to 132. So Finding Dory right now is the top leading animated film, and it's on track probably to make $1 billion, just as Zootopia did. So how do you not do a sequel?
Well, again,
if you're a Disney executive.
If you're a Disney executive, you shut up and stay out of Pixar's way as much as humanly possible.
You're not realistic.
I fail to see why that's unrealistic. Look, these guys do nothing but make you money. There is one movie in their entire pantheon of big budget releases that did not succeed financially. One. This is a group that you own that is just going to make you money, and they make more money the more you stay out of their way. I fail to see why that's an unrealistic expectation. It's just logic.
They can stay out of their way. Well, they can stay out of their way and still say, "Hey, we'd like you to do." I mean, look, Disney's already said they want more. They want more franchises, so they're turning certain of these features into franchises, whether they needed, whether they lended themselves to it or not. That's why we're also getting another Incredibles movie, though that lends itself more to a sequel than maybe some of these other ones do. But I'm telling you right now, something's going to, the next one's going to be Finding Hank. or some crazy thing.
It'll probably be Finding Marlin after he develops dementia in his old age.
Maybe. They're going to find somebody. Or better yet, Finding Nemo 2. This time, now Nemo's all grown up.
This
but something
time
happens
it's
and
personal.
Finding Nemo 2, The Revenge.
Setting up Finding Nemo in space.
So, worldwide, right now, Finding Nemo is, let's see, where is Finding Nemo? Finding Dory is number 13 for the year. It's between Alice Through the Looking Glass and London Has Fallen.
Oh, this thing is going nowhere but up.
So right now we've got Captain America still over $1 billion. So, something under. Zootopia, Jungle Book, which hasn't quite made $1 billion, but it's close. It's at $923 million. Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice, and Deadpool. So right now, the top 5 movies of the year, 3 of them are comic books, 3 of them are Disney, and 1 of them is animated. And all of them are, and the top 3 movies of the year are all one of its Disney movies. So they are Disney's on track to win the year once again.
Oh, it's not even going to be close. We've still got Doctor Strange and a Star Wars movie this year. Not going to be close.
Rounding out the top 10, we've got from Sony, The Mermaid, which was a foreign film out of China. Kung Fu Panda still hanging in there, man. $518 million. So it's still up there. X-Men Apocalypse is at number 8. Monster Hunt, another foreign film, is at number 9. And rounding out the top 10, because thank you, China, Warcraft. And then we have Angry Birds, Alice, and Finding Dory. So, yeah, it's got nowhere to go but up. We'll talk about it as summer progresses. But I would imagine it's going to enter the top 5 at some point and knock out Deadpool or Batman v Superman.
I'm going to laugh, Mark, when this movie fails to surpass Minions, Global's take, and you have another conniption.
No, I'm done having conniptions.
No, you're not. You won't have a conniption over that, but you're not done by any stretch of the imagination.
My wife is making me go see Big Fat Greek Wedding 2.
I'm sorry.
We're going to go see and we'll see how this one does versus Finding Dory. But The Secret Life of Pets, which came from the same studio as Minions and Despicable Me.
Yeah.
The part of a double feature at the drive-in. And the second feature is my Big Fat Greek Wedding 2. And so I'm a good husband.
Yeah, you suffer. I know.
Go on.
Can you tell which of us is single?
Listeners, can you? Well, I think it's fairly obvious since I constantly reference a wife, unless I'm imagining things. Am I imagining things?
No, I'm real.
There we go.
Either that or an extraordinarily clever fabrication. And I'm not ruling that out.
Yeah, shut up. So domestic, it's the number 6 movie in America.
$54 million opening day.
Let's see.
Singular.
Now hang on. Let's compare that to this year. Movies that have made $54 million or less currently are, in America at least, are Neighbors 2, Barbershop: The Next Cut, 13 Hours, The Secret Soldiers of Benghazi, and The Huntsman's Winter's War, which made between $54 and $48 million.
Yeah, that's their opening weekend. This had $54 million in one day.
Yeah. So let's compare that to, say, Warcraft, who at this point in the United States has made only $39 million.
One day. This, again, Pixar can basically do no wrong. This thing's going to be a huge hit. It will make nearly $1 billion. I mean, again, Pixar just, when they're kind of left to their own devices, they make quality films that make tons of cash. They're the best of both worlds.
A couple of showdowns. We talked about its four-day battle with Shrek the Third, top-grossing animated releases.
Oh, piss on Shrek the Third.
Against its predecessor, Finding Nemo, in 4 days that had made $77 million. This made twice that.
Yeah, Finding Nemo was not a big hit right out of the gate, but it stuck around for a long time, and Finding Nemo kept building. Nowadays a lot of box office hits are front-loaded. You make your money in those first 2 weeks, or you don't make it. Finding Nemo stuck around in theaters for 4 or 5 months. I mean, the thing just kept making money.
So let's talk a little bit about the domestic weekend. Finding Dory came in at number 1 at $135 million.
Smashed.
This is, again, domestic.
Smashed the rest of the movies out.
Central Intelligence, starring your friend and mine, The Rock, and Kevin Hart, came in at $35 million. The Conjuring 2, which came out last week and won the weekend, and won it ahead of Warcraft and Now You See Me 2, came in at number 3 at $14 million. Like I said, it was the number 1 movie last week. It has dropped to number 3 with a $14 million take and a 63% drop. Now You See Me 2 was the number 3 movie last weekend and is now number 4. That came in
The Conjuring 2 has already made its money. It's made almost $200 million worldwide and had a budget of only $40 million.
Warcraft was the number 2 movie last week. It has dropped to number 5. The 70% drop. It made $7 million. It's not finding an audience.
Domestically, we do not care for Warcraft, but the Chinese love it.
No, it's getting a sequel and will probably be shot across the seas based on the foreign audience. X-Men dropped 1 place from number 5 to number 6 and made about $5 million. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2 was the number 4 movie. It drops to number 7 with a $5 million take.
About $5 million too much.
Alice Through the Looking Glass in its 4th week has stayed the same in 8th place with a $4 million take. And rounding out the top 10, Me Before You made almost $4 million, came in, dropped from 6 to 9. And Captain America is still within the top 10. It drops from number 9 to number 10 this week with a $2 million take, and is currently sitting at domestic $401 million and foreign $743 million for a $1,144 million take. So it's still the one to beat.
I'm not sure anything's going to beat it at this point.
Well, looking at what's coming down the pike, we've got Independence Day, so no, that's this Friday. The week after that is the BFG, Big Friendly Giant, which my wife wants to go see. But the movie we'll be reviewing is The Legend of Tarzan, and neither one of those is beating it. Secret Life of Pets.
Tarzan's going to be lucky to break even.
The Secret Life of Pets is a big maybe. I mean, Millions made over $1 billion last year, much to my chagrin, so we'll see what happens. And then we're taking a break.
Every dollar that it made.
I don't have anything listed. No, wait, hang on. Ghostbusters. Ghostbusters will probably make $1 billion, as I've said all along. Ghostbusters.
I am really utilizing Ghostbusters as the litmus test for all you people out there.
Can I tell you that ahead of the Finding Dory movie was a trailer for Ghostbusters?
Yeah, I know.
And my daughter got very excited. My daughter got very excited. She was super excited, Robert Winfree. She can't wait to see the new Ghostbusters movie.
You could probably jingle your keys and still get your daughter to pay attention. I don't care. I care about the quality of the product.
So Ghostbusters is probably the leading contender right now. the next few weeks to beat Civil War, and I predict it will.
I really hope you're wrong. I really do. I acknowledge the gross probability that you are correct.
I'm telling you, they've heavily marketed it towards children. It's been in every children's movie that I've seen so far. There's been a trailer for. And something we saw recently, there were like 2 commercials for Ghostbusters. I was like, okay, there's no way they're not gearing this towards kids at this point. Star Trek Beyond's not going to make $1 billion. Neither is the new Jason Bourne movie.
Nope.
Suicide Squad, that's kind of like a Deadpool situation. That's kind of like
Suicide
a Deadpool situation.
Squad desperately needs to be a good movie. It will have a good opening weekend regardless because people are stupid. But if that movie sucks, no one's seeing it a second time.
Well, let me make my point. Suicide Squad may benefit from it, A, being a good movie, B, having really good, people telling other people about it.
Word of mouth.
Word of mouth. Thank you. I got it. Word of mouth. Much like Deadpool, if it becomes a thing, it becomes a cultural thing, people will go see it. It's like I said, you're absolutely right. If it's bad, it's going to get terrible word of mouth and it's going to sink. However, if it has good word of mouth, I think Suicide Squad can be one of the top 5 movies of the year. I think it's got
now.
That
Let's
kind of
also
potential.
consider all the people involved with Suicide Squad and extrapolate the probability of it being a good movie.
And then finally, we have Pete's Dragon. That's not making $1 billion. And then
I saw a trailer for that finally in front of this movie. Yeah, no.
August 24th is our summer wrap-up show. And so the only other movie left for the year that has now, I mean, just to that point, we are going to continue to review movies, just not every week, number one. We're taking an extended break until the end of September when we come back with Magnificent Seven. But my point is with all of
why did you have to remind me about the existence of that?
Because you're the one that put it on the list, sir.
I did not put it on the list.
Yeah, you did. You're the one that suggested the Magnificent Seven. I didn't have it on the list originally.
That's probably true, and I regret it because you're trying to remake one of the functionally 2 of the best movies ever.
So the rest of the year has Underworld 5, Inferno, Doctor Strange, Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, which depending if people are reminded, hey, it's a Harry Potter film, sort of, that might get an audience. Then you have Moana, which has The Rock, and it's another princess movie, so that'll probably get to $1 billion.
Moana's got an outside chance.
And then, of course, there's Star Wars Rogue One, which will probably also. I don't think
I've got some reservations now after hearing about studio interference, but it's Star Wars, and you people are fanatical about it, so maybe.
What do you mean, you people? No,
I mean, you people. Star Wars fanatics. You people. I'm sorry, can I not be more clear about this?
So what we're saying here is that you've got 2 movies already in the billions, both, one of them Civil War, the other one's Utopia. Last year we had 5 movies in the billions. It was, you had Star Wars that made $2 billion, you had Avengers, you had Minions, you had The Fast and the Furious, which had the death of Paul Walker involved in that. What was the 5th one? Do you remember?
Oh, Jurassic World?
Jurassic World. Yo, boy, people love them some Jurassic World.
Yay, we love cover songs.
So you had 5 movies last year. All of them were not an original one in the bunch. I mean, Minions was an offshoot of Despicable Me. Avengers Age of Ultron.
You had 2 functional remakes. A 7th entry into a franchise.
And then you had a comic book movie. So, this year is struggling to get to where last year got to by far. I mean, just the top 10 alone, you had 2 movies. You had 5 movies in the billions. 2 in the 800 millions, 3 in the 600 millions, and that last one there was The Martian. So to get into the top 10, you had to get above $630 million. This year, right now, to get into the top 10, you have to get past $379 million. Yeah, we're not doing well here.
Well, to be fair, we're also just crossing the halfway point of the year here. And a couple of those movies that we mentioned from last year did not come out until the latter half. So, I mean, I'm not seeing it this year, but I acknowledge the possibility that there's not enough data to reach a definitive conclusion. Rather enough to make an educated guess.
Right. All right. We come to our third part of the show.
Have we?
So, are you excited to hear what the good folks over at Rotten Tomatoes thought, Robert?
No, God! No, God, please, no! 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 No!
I hit the button.
All right, let's do this.
All right, I'm only reading the rotten ones because at this point, if you thought this movie was bad, there's something wrong with you. Jay Olsen from Cinema Mixtape. Intermittently cute and nothing more. Well, I don't think that's
what
fair.
a crock. Minions was intermittently cute and nothing more, and I loved Minions, mind you. That is a gross exaggeration. That is fundamentally untrue. You have typed something and put it out on the air with your name next to it. That is just untrue. And sadly, we do not live in a society where you will be held culpable for that.
Matthew Lacona of the San Diego Reader, who's a top critic, says, directors Andrew Stanton and Angus McLean make it very clear what you are supposed to feel and when you are supposed to feel it. What they don't do is earn it, and gave it a 1 out of 5. You piece of shit.
Okay, whoa. I don't know what happened to this particular individual in their childhood that led them to be so jaundiced and jaded and emotionally closed off. I actually feel pity for this sad sack. You, sir, are the Theodore Buckland of movie reviews. Yes, the movie makes it clear when it's tugging at your emotions. No kidding. This is not a movie that relies on subtlety. Here's the thing. If it didn't earn it, the vast majority of people wouldn't feel anything. There's cheap emotional manipulation, which is one thing that I dislike because it's cheap. It's easy. Any dumbass can do it. But it also leaves a really unpleasant aftertaste and generally does not affect everyone the same way. If this was unearned emotion, then the vast majority would not be feeling anything. They'd simply be rolling their eyes at it. The fact that you fall into this sad minority who feel nothing when dealing with this movie simply means you are an emotionally traumatized and closed off individual, and I feel sorry for you. Please seek professional help.
Craig Matheson of the Sunday Age. Dory can fritter away your interest, and the prominence also exposes the limitations of DeGeneres as a voice actor. Daffy Blather is a cinch for the talk show host, but she absolutely milks any attempt at pathos. This person knows big words. I said earlier, Ellen DeGeneres does a fine job of conveying emotion, of conveying the real struggle with one's own mind. It comes close to approaching somebody dealing with a mental health issue. What did I just see recently? Orange is the New Black also recently has a character who's hearing voices, and the actor who looks a lot like Ellen DeGeneres, oddly enough, does an absolutely outstanding job of somebody who's really wrestling with all of that. So I don't think that's fair at all.
If your complaint is that Ellen DeGeneres is just basically showing up being Ellen DeGeneres, fine. somewhat valid criticism. There's not a lot of range to her vocals. But pretending that there's not, a depth of emotion to the character that is portrayed from her is simply, again, fundamentally untrue.
Louise Keller of Urban Cinephile says, it's bright and colorful with a throng of ultra-cute marine characters, but the film is a pale imitation of its precursor, Finding Nemo, never replicating its magic or touching our heartstrings. Okay, even my wife looked at askew on that one.
Two things about that. One, if you are just going to compare this apples to Finding Nemo, no, it is not as good on several levels.
Okay, I disagree. I thought this one was better.
Disagree with me all you want. I'm right on this. Hang on, let me make my point. Failing to live up to a nearly flawless film is an impossible standard of excellence. And while being a sequel, it invites that comparison, one also has to consider how it compares not only to its predecessor, but to the average film dealing with a similar material. And it's vastly superior. This is not, again, Finding Nemo is 9 out of 10, 9.5 out of 10. This is, 8.5. At what point does that make it bad? It is no. Look, again, if we're doing 1-to-1, if you can only watch Finding Nemo and Finding Dory for the rest of your life, sure, Nemo's better. Godfather Part 2 is better than Godfather Part 1.
Can I just say, I don't know by what measuring stick you're saying it's better, and I don't want to get into a huge argument when we're about to close the show shortly. But I found Nemo to be a road picture. Well, this one, I thought its heroine was a compelling character, and I felt more. You feel for the Albert Brooks character because he's missing his child. We just had this situation here in Florida where. And we're debating the merits of parenting in the case of a child being taken by an alligator at the Grand Floridian. And I don't want to get into that either. But sure, the thought of having a child and then losing a child and going to the ends of the earth to save that child. Okay, yeah, that takes us on an emotional roller coaster. But to me, that's what Finding Nemo was. It was a road picture, and it was about a guy, going after his son. Where this is less a road picture and more about Dory's internal struggle. She has a goal. She wants to find her parents, but it really is more of she's trying to be whole. She's trying to find that missing part of self. While internally, it is herself making life harder for her. In that her memory is constantly giving out on her. I find that to be much more rich and compelling than just a road movie, personally.
I would advise you to rewatch Finding Nemo.
I just did.
Really? When?
Watched it with my kids.
Yeah, when?
Last week.
Okay. Briefly. Hang on.
The scenes with Nemo go on forever. I was almost bored.
Yeah, the prison break from the dentist aquarium, a little bit overdrawn. I generally found Albert Brooks' character to be more interesting than Dory's in this movie. I found the sub-characters in Finding Nemo to be a little bit... if we remove Ed O'Neill from the equation from this movie, the supporting cast is not as strong in a lot of ways.
No, it's a lot of gags. I'll give you that. But I thought there were a lot of gags in Nemo too. But the sharks were a gag.
The sharks were a gag. They were at least a funny gag.
Okay, so in this one, you replace the sharks with sea lions, but you also have helpful people who also have their own little victories, like Destiny and Ty Burrell's character, who I thought, as a beluga whale who can't get his echo scope to work, I thought he was hilarious as well.
I found him tiring.
Okay. Todd McCarthy of The Hollywood Reporter, top critic, says, its heroine may suffer from short-term memory loss, but viewers with any memory at all will realize that Finding Dory falls rather short of its wondrous progenitor. We already talked about that. I'm moving on. Sean Burns.
Yeah, it falls. Okay, so it falls short of a nearly perfect movie. I fail to see why that's legitimate criticism.
Sean Burns, Splice personality. Perhaps it's because I'm a soulless husk of a man dead inside, but the Pixar formula just isn't cutting it for me anymore. Walk into traffic, sir.
I will accept predicating your argument on you being a soulless husk of a man. I will say this, and real briefly, as it pertains to Pixar as a whole. Not every movie is going to affect everyone emotionally the same way. This one did not tug at my heartstrings nearly as much as several other Pixar movies have. And similarly to other people, it will. You know, it's...
No. Let me say this. Not for fucking nothing, but if I go to one more Pixar movie and have an Up experience, I'm walking out again. Okay? I don't need another Up experience, and neither does my wonderful bride here, where the both of us were sobbing messes by the end of that first 10 minutes. No thanks.
Yeah, you were also not in a really good place emotionally to watch that movie yet.
No, we were, sir.
Again, Up was a tad misadvertised.
Just a bit.
That being said, I still find Up to be a tremendous film, but I understand that it doesn't play for you the same way it plays for other people.
But Up was like watching the first 10 minutes of A Nightmare on Elm Street, and then it suddenly turns into fucking Ghostbusters. Like, Jesus. I see the connection, I guess, but you're talking about two completely different tonal shifts.
All right, I fundamentally agree. I also think it's necessary to set up where the Ed Asner character is for the rest of the movie and how he interacts with other people.
Okay, I will say this: if you haven't just lost a child within weeks of watching that movie, it probably doesn't have the effect on you it had on my wife and I. But we did, and I can't change that.
And you are more than entitled to the emotional roller coaster and whatnot that you go on as you live your life and observe and consume media.
So as I said, I would prefer not Up to hit me right where I live in a situation where I've had, it would be like, the father who lost the kid to the alligator, and the next movie he sees something similar happen. So like, Jesus, leave me alone. I don't need to see a movie with this in it right now. And that's not the movie's fault. I just don't need to see it. John Ward of The Advocate of Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Finding Dory has its moments, but it's not one of Pixar's home runs. 2.5 out of 4 stars.
Disagree. This is absolutely this is absolutely a home run for Pixar.
Amy Nicholson of MTV, top critic and also feature fighter on movie fights from Screen Junkies. Someone I generally like. Morbidity covers every scale of Finding Dory like fin rot. She gave it a C.
Wait. You believe Finding Dory to be a fundamentally morbid film. That's the premise from which you are arguing here.
Yeah.
I can't even begin to fathom that as a coherent thought process.
Nice girl, but apparently on drugs. Renee Rodriguez of the Miami Herald, top critic. Finding Dory isn't so much a sequel to Finding Nemo as it is a Looney Tunes spin-off, wilder, sillier, broader, and instantly disposable. 2.5 out of 4 stars. We have a problem with the drug sequence.
I will give them sillier. I would even give them broader, and it certainly moves at a much faster pace, which I had issues with at times. not to the detriment of the overall film, but if I'm nitpicking the supersonic speed with which a few sequences occur, or a few leaps are made in location, relatively cogent point. This is not an instantly disposable film, unless you count, 90% of all film as disposable.
Kenneth Turman of the Los Angeles Times also is a top critic. As the 13-year gap between Nemo and Dory indicates, this was not a concept that cried out to be made.
I would agree with that sentiment. I would also say that given that this was, created and written and whatnot by the same people that did Finding Nemo, sure, Disney wanted another one because the first one made nearly $1 billion 13 years ago. They also didn't rush through a half-assed sequel. They got the movie fundamentally right. Now, if you're just tired of sequels and wish they would stop making them, I understand. I feel your pain. You can't take it out on every sequel willy-nilly.
Armand White of the National Review. For anyone who is not a legally bound babysitter, Finding Dory offers nothing that will please a taste for finer humor, freer fun, or genuinely expressive filmmaking.
Suck it, biped.
That's our last rotten review.
We've talked about that at length. Pixar does a great job of integrating things that adults can care about into their basically kids' movies. And they did it again here. Finer humor. Are we dealing with the level of wordplay or sophisticated writing that we got in even, say, Inside Out? No. But Inside Out was one of the best written movies ever.
Yeah. Humans look a little weird, but yes, it was a brilliantly written film.
Again, fundamentally disagree with your premise that an adult without kids could not enjoy that movie. Just not true.
Yeah, it's just some of these critics. Again, I think that they're going out of their way to be harsh, just to run against the pack. But all right, we have just a few minutes left. As I said, next week we are reviewing Independence Day Resurgence. Not bringing my kid to that one. Not bringing my child to that one. I've been told not to, which is fine. I don't think she's really old enough to. First of all, as I keep telling people, I think she'd be fine in the movie as far as being able to watch the visuals. I don't think she'd get too scared. I honestly think she'd be bored out of her fucking mind. As much as I would like her to, after my experience with her at Warcraft, there's just a tone and a narrative limit to which she can accept. And when you go over that limit, she just sort of looks at you like, I don't know what it is I'm supposed to be watching here. So, and I can accept that at 5 years old. So we're going to skip bringing the daughter to Independence Day Resurgence. I, however, am going to go Friday night and going to have a blast. I loved the first Independence Day. I can't wait for this one. And next week to talk about it.
I really loved the first Independence Day as well. I remember going to see it in theaters. I vividly remember I was living in Gresham, Oregon at the time, at old single-screen theater. So that, again, first run when it came out in, 93 or whatever. And I remember going to see this movie in theaters and had a blast. I still rewatch it every July 4th because it's fun, because it's a very well-written and well-realized, large-budget disaster/blockbuster movie.
Welcome to Earth.
You get the good one-liners. You have passable heroes. There are two major leaps in logic, one of which I can...
Sorry, I saw them fly their jets. I think I can fly it too. Good.
That's one of them. The other being his laptop interfacing with alien technology.
Well, Apple is known to be able to.
No.
What do you know?
That being said, I enjoy it. I have all kinds of fun with it. And if this movie can just equal the general quality of the original, everything will be hunky-dory. However, we're dealing with an inferior cast because we have the lesser Hemsworth and someone playing Will Smith's kid. And I'm not sure it's going to be put in the best position to succeed overall. Again, my goal for this is not great cinema. My goal is be as good as the first one. That's all I want out of this. That is the extent of my expectation, and I'm still worried they're not going to hit it.
Do you think someone will punch an alien and say, "Welcome to Earth"?
No. Because no one on that cast can pull that off the way Will Smith did.
He mispronounced Earth.
Well,
Welcome
he's
to
black,
Earth.
you see.
Oh, Jesus, Winfree. My goodness. Did you hear that, Melissa?
I didn't know.
Yeah. All right.
This podcast has already killed my chances at running for public office. What do I care at this point?
I knew it. All right. Other things we've got going on this week. The new Thrawsome Blatt came out, so you wouldn't know it because the only place I can find this thing is on the actual Thrawsome Blatt Bandcamp page, which I spent the $11. Thank you. You're welcome, Robert Cooper. So we're reviewing the new Thrawsome Blatt tomorrow. Last week we reviewed the new Volbeat, Seal the Deal and Let's Boogie. It stunk. We also reviewed the new Voltron and Warcraft. Thursday, there's no Long Road to Ruin. That's on a brief hiatus. We'll come back when the week of Ghostbusters. However, Sean and I are going to get together and review Orange is the New Black Season 4. The following week, we've got, we're going to do a review of Whitechapel, Mark of the Blade, and as I said, Independence Day, and then that's it for the week as far as podcasts with my stuff that I'll be on. No Long Road to Ruin, no other reviews. We're taking Thursday off because I'll be at Margaritaville. Going to Margaritaville, Robert Winfree.
I really hope not, considering you'll be handling firearms.
That's Tuesday.
Oh, Tuesday. In which case, go ahead. Continue slowly killing your liver and brain cells.
I will. I drink less than my wife does, thank you very much. Tell him. I'm practically a teetotaler.
I say you don't drink.
I couldn't even finish the beer that we had on our last date night.
I failed to see how the level of consumption in this case countermands my point about you imbibing substances that kill your liver and brain cells.
Blah, blah, blah. Big words. Blah, blah, blah.
None of those were big words.
You said imbibe. You're gay.
You know what imbibe means, and and once again, because you bring that up continually, I am not a homosexual.
Or a communist.
My political leanings are not towards that of communism and or socialism, no.
All right. Oh, look. The UFC comes to Cleveland. Tickets on sale this week. Can I go to Cleveland?
No.
Actually, you could go stay with Shyla.
Woo!
You don't want to go to Cleveland.
Cleveland's not that bad.
All right, could you have said that any higher pitch?
Sorry.
Jesus. Cats right now are all coming to our house. All right, do your plugs, man, and then hit the button.
Last Sunday, I hosted the 411 Ground and Pound radio show. We reviewed UFC Fight Night 89. Stephen Wonderboy Thompson defeated Roy McDonald. It was glorious. Well, glorious might be overselling it, but it was a great technical display, great tactical fight. I enjoyed the heck out of it. Donald Cerrone knocked out Patrick Cote. Fun was had by all, so thanks to everyone who listens. To the best of my knowledge, there is no Ground and Pound show this Sunday, unless we get a lot more news on the UFC sale and whether or not that's actually going to mean anything. Here's a minor hint for everybody. If Dana White's still the president of the UFC, nothing will change. Other than that, we will be back on the 3rd of July, and we'll be previewing my least favorite week of the year, because there's 3 events on 3 nights, all back to back to back, culminating in UFC 200. Yeah. I'm going to be a tad burned out by the end of that, and more than a little bit frustrated. I'm just extrapolating there based on announced fights and what I expect various results to be. So anyway, July 3rd, tune in. We'll be previewing all 3 of those cards. Yay. I don't know how Larry Zonka does it. I just don't. All right. Again, Mark and I will be back on next Wednesday for Independence Day Resurrection. Or Resurgence. Sorry, Resurrection, because I was thinking, what has Jeff Goldblum done recently? His career could certainly use a good old shot in the arm there. That poor guy got robbed of an Oscar. Absolutely robbed for The Fly. Shame, really. All right. That's it for us. We have new outro music. Yes, we do. Because Mark likes Clutch. I have no concerted opinion one way or the other. But we'll be going out with their sounds now. Please don't sue us. We don't make money. Please, we're really not worth it. So until next time, for Mark Radulich, I'm Robert Winfree, reminding everyone out there to please continue to be well, be safe, and behave.